And as we breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth, we're just releasing stuff it's like dust, and we're dusting. So in this bouncing process, we're simply letting go of any extra energy that was ours, did come to visit us for some reason, and now it is ready to return back to the universe. We're going to swivel back and forth, just like a little child would. Breathing in through our nose and out through our mouth. We're going to allow our hands now to float above our heads. And allow your chin to drop down, your spine to stretch up into the universe from the top of your head. Let your hands be nice and flexible. Let those elbows just move and the wrists move, for the bounce is coming out of the knees. We're resetting our polarity, we're resetting our magnetism, our electromagnetic energy, and we're connecting it with the earth again. We're going to allow our hands to float back down. And allow them to float nice and slowly. We're going to use our exhale now to come into an emptiness and a quiet stillness. So breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. And allow your body to be still. Your fingertips may be tingling. Your palms may feel full. And your elbows may be floating away from your body. This is your chi. You've activated your chi. And here in this position called the beginning of the universe, you're stepping into the emptiness. In this empty space, in this beginning of the universe, envision yourself floating, buoyed up by unconditional love and infinite love. It supports you completely. And here you are at the beginning of the universe, seeing all of creation and all possibilities. And here at the beginning of the universe, we're going to bring our hands now to the lower dantian. Women, your right hand will be next to your navel. Men, the left hand will be next to the navel. The hands don't touch. Our chin drops down. We have a gentle smile on our face. And here we give the password. I am in the universe. The universe is in my body. The universe and I combine together as one. Now we call upon the energy of our master, and your master is a master of your choosing. Someone who is higher vibration, infinite wisdom, with whom you are perfectly safe, and has mighty power. We call upon the energy of our master to set the intention for this Chi Talk today. Dearest Master, with deepest love and gratitude for all the things that I have learned so far on this planet as I travel here, and as we work together and as we come together as a community to receive information and wisdom. We set the intention for this practice today, this Chi Talk and our connection together, to be able to deeply feel into things that we feel, to be able to release extra energy that is stuck in our bodies, to feel safe enough to step into what is inside and receive it and honor it and release anything that's ready to be released. See a beautiful light in your lower dantian, your navel area. It's a beautiful white light. It's soft, There's a mist coming off of it. And as you feel into that light in your lower dantian, you feel that reservoir of qi, condensed qi, which is done in your lower torso. You feel that reservoir that is enough and is refilled over and over again, is enough to carry you through any highs and lows and waves and troughs and depths and heights, what it means to be a human being. As we feel into this lower dantian and we feel this ballast here, we feel this balanced energy that allows us to stay upright through our existence. As we feel that in our lower dantian and we feel the intention to feel safe in all of who we are, we thank our Master. We feel them present and we feel them with us always. We gather our light into the lower dantian and we feel it spinning faster and faster to the right. It gets smaller and smaller. And we feel and hear a hum. There's a sound and a vibration to it. It is your own song. It sings inside of you. It's the song of you and your Master together. Your own inner light, your inner knowing. Bring your hands to your heart and rub your hands together. And bring them to your face. And take your fingers and trace a line on either side of your nose and up into the hairline. And then the outside of your face, shaping a heart. And say to yourself as you do this, and I invite you to do this out loud, and say to yourself, I love you, and use your own name. And say that 3 times. I love you, Roxy. I love you, Roxy. I love you, Roxy. So as we gather together today, we're discussing and sharing and exploring the subject of grief. What is grief? Think about that for a minute. The 4th healing movement of the 5 healing elements movements is contentment and we're working with the lung system, and the contracting emotion there is sadness and depression and grief. And those are 3 different things. Sadness is when something ends, but we might have a choice in that ending. We might have some lead up to the ending. So for instance, if you're selling the home that you lived in as a child or something, you know that this is coming and you're sad about it. And there is some grief in there too, but you're sad about it, but it's a different process. Grief is something that we feel when something has happened that we haven't any choice in. And something that is abrupt. We didn't have a choice and we didn't want it to happen. Grief can fall into the category of losing a loved one, losing a pet, losing a job. It can fall into the category of being traumatized if some violence has happened to you. You're losing part of you, you're losing control. You might be losing your health. So grief is something that comes when something happens to us that we cannot control. On June 6th, 2022, my husband kissed me goodbye in the morning, took my daughter to band, and never returned. He was at work and he suffered a massive heart attack. And when he was late for work that night, I texted him, no answer. And when a police officer was in my driveway, I knew my life had changed. And as you hear that little bit of my story, think about what happens in you and what feelings are triggered in you and what actions and what happens in your body in different spaces. When you hear about that story from me, it probably resonates with something that's similar for you. Feel into those spaces. We're going to explore them a little bit today. We're going to heal them. We're going to invite in the healing. Master Lin, thankfully, was teaching levels 1, 2, 3, and 4 all summer long, and I was enrolled. And engaging in all those levels with Master Lin, with some of you and some of my students that I've taught, healed my soul and helped me so very deeply through that process. My Spring Forest Qigong practice was one of the things, and continues to be one of those things that enlarges me, expands me, heals me, and especially carries me. Absolutely carries me. There were times, especially in the first 48 hours, I did not know how to even breathe. You may be able to relate to that. You realize you're holding your breath. You have no idea where it is, where it was, where it came from. Oh, remember to breathe. Those are difficult, difficult times. You may be able to relate to them. This spring, I was engaged in the healer class with Master Glenn Toby and Katrina Toby. And Master Glenn said something that was really important to me and has resonated with me. He said, the mind is like a dangerous neighborhood at night. Don't go there alone. And that has resonated with me, and I tell all my students when I teach them their level 1 class that particular phrase, because we have stories. We have things that we tell ourselves. We have perceptions that we bring with words and actions and feelings. And when we're in that grief process, there's all kinds of stories that we tell ourselves. We tell ourselves all the should-haves. I should have done this. Oh, if only I had done this, I could have done this differently. Oh, if we hadn't had that fight. Oh, if this hadn't happened, if that hadn't happened. If I'd only listened to my intuition. So many stories that we can tell us, that we tell ourselves. And we can go down a rabbit hole. And so that dark neighborhood of our mind, who do we take in that space to shine the light? We take our inner light, and we take the light of our master. Our master's energy, we take ourselves with our master into that dark space. There are many ancient documents, books. There's the Yellow Emperor book that's transcended thousands of years, that all Chinese medicine and Qigong and it all follows. There's Bible, there's the Torah, there's the Quran. There's all kinds of stories and books that bring us stories and history of things that have happened in the past, so that we can read them and we can learn from them and we can take faith in them and we can see ourselves in these stories. Through the process of grief and through the process of life after death, when you have to, and I'm going to focus specifically on the passing of a loved one here, because that is my experience. There's so much bureaucracy that happens. There are so many things, so much paperwork involved in closing the life of someone that has left this planet. And in that space, there isn't a lot of time to sit and just deep set into your grief. And so that was the beginning of the summer. Stuart's sister was here for 10 days after he died, and she's very good at things like that. And she and I got all those papers together, and we visited the banks and all of those things, and we just plowed through all the stuff. Drive, get this done, get that done, get this done, get that done. Take a breath, if you know where to find one. Breathe. In that time period, I hadn't forgotten. I didn't have time for. My practice, my half an hour in the morning, my half an hour in the evening, my 5 healing elements, my small universe meditation, those I didn't have time for them. But I did have time for and remembered constantly the tiny little things. You see here, the head to toe healing book, those tiny things that make up the bigger practice, the posture. When I would find myself sinking and deepening into that sadness, I would go, oh, I'm folding over, I'm forgetting to breathe. And I would simply open my shoulders, drop them back, and breathe. I would bring that smile to my face, even though I didn't feel like smiling. I would change that. And even as I share that with you right now, I can feel the change and the expansion in my body as I smile. So those little particulate pieces of the practice carried me and carried me and carried me from one breath to the next, quite literally. When 27 years ago, my father died. And when I went home to his funeral, I'm the fifth of 6 children, and there were lots of grandchildren. And so we gathered together in my family home and to celebrate his life, but I didn't understand then how to process grief. I didn't understand how to process any emotions, really, quite frankly. And so on the day of his funeral, I remember getting this massive, massive headache, and I felt like my eyes were going to pop out. It was just all this built up tension that was caught inside of me. I didn't know what that was at the time, and I don't have headaches very often. This time, as I was immersed in this depth of grief, which was even more catastrophic than my father's grief, when I would feel that tension in my head start to build, I now had skills, I now had resources, I had thoughts, I had instruction, I had wisdom to me. When I would feel that tension start to build through here, I would take from head to toe healing, number 5, put your finger on your forehead. Rotate it. Do this with me right now. Think of something that brings tension in, perhaps your own grief. A little bit of pressure in that center part of your forehead, and breathe in deeply. Bring the smile to your face. And then we name the emotion. I would sit there and I would say, this is grief. I am grieving. I am very sad. I have lost Stuart. And as I would sit there and receive what I was feeling and name what I was feeling, literally it took 35, 40, 50 seconds for that tension in my body, that my body was holding those emotions, that I now had a way to release them and process them and name them. When they're named, and when they're honored, they release. When we receive what is and we don't try to change the emotion because we don't like it, we won't get lost in it. We really, truly won't get lost in it. So there was one time, so I went through the summer using these little tiny pieces, but I hadn't had the time to just really fall apart, to just completely fall apart. I didn't have the luxury of it. I had children at home still. I had a farm to run, a business to run. I had all this paperwork to continue to finish. I didn't have the time until my body said, it is time. You will now fall apart. And I remember this, it was like the cup of grief came to the tipping point, and it is now tipping and dumping. And I cleared my schedule. I had somebody come and remember I have a 16-year-old still at home. I had dear friends come and say, and I said, could you please take her for a couple of days? I knew that she would be happy and safe there. I canceled all my other obligations. I climbed into my bed and I curled up into a fetal position and I bawled my eyes out. And asked to receive every little piece. In those ancient stories, in those ancient books that we read, there's one that I study, And there was a group of people called the Jaredites, and they were in one area of the world, and they needed to leave that area. And they called upon their master's energy, and the master said, "I need to get you out of here." And we all know of pilgrimages and ways that masters have taken groups of people from one space to another for their own good. And these Jaredites had to cross an ocean. And their technical master gave them information about how to build barges. They weren't shipbuilders, but they got that technical information. And they built these barges. And in these barges, they were like footballs, basically. And the instruction was that because they were going to go get put into the ocean and just guided by the winds. And so there was instruction about how to make sure that they would get air in there. And they brought in their food and animals and different things, and they were going to be tossed in the ocean. And the brother of Jared said to his master, "So are we going to travel with no light?" And he got inspiration to go into the mountains and take some lights, or some stones. And he brought some stones. And he said, he said to his master, "If you'll touch these stones, they will light, and we'll have light to carry us." And so the master said, "All right, that's a good plan. We'll do that." And so they closed the lids of these barges, and the winds took them into the sea, and they went across the ocean with no steering. This is where I went at that time. I went into a barge. I closed the lid. I saw the light. I glued my eyes onto the light and cast myself to the master's energy, knowing that my master would carry me. And I said to my master, "I don't want to leave any stone unturned. I want to feel all of this. Because if I don't feel it, and if I don't receive it and allow it to move through me, it will stay in me. And it will get stuck in me." And I cried and cried. And there were times when it would be a wave. I would cry, and then I would settle for a bit, and I would sleep. And then I would cry again, and I would settle, and I would sleep. I had reached out electronically to a couple of friends. A friend came, knocked on my door. I didn't have the strength to get out of bed. She texted me and said, "Are you in there?" And I said, "Yes, please come in." She too was a widow. And she came and cried with me. As we connect with each other in these spaces, and we feel into each other's hearts, and don't try to change things. Feel what it is. So we feel into each other's hearts. As we take these processes, we take our 5 healing elements movements, we receive, we bring in the happiness, and we feel the anger. We bring in the joy, and we feel the hatred. We feel all of what is. As we feel it, we move it. I like to think of, and when I'm teaching my level 1 class, and we talk about energy blockages, and we talk about how emotional energy blockages are one of the strongest ones that create blockages in us. And it goes back to those stories and those perceptions that we give ourselves. I like to think of emotions as sitting in little pods outside of us. And there's how many different emotions that we can have. I don't know how many there are. There's lots. And they all can sit in little pods. When we're balanced, they sit in this little pod out here. So let's take this one as our anger pod. What's anger for? Anger comes in when a boundary has been crossed. So take, for example, when you were a kid or even as an adult, if somebody jumps out from behind a door and scares you, they think it's funny. But in that process, you didn't know that they were there, and they jump out and scare you, and your amygdala goes fight, fight, or flee, freeze. And you might swing your arm out to hit them because that's your reaction, that's your reflex. a boundary has been crossed, and then you might be mad at them. A boundary has been crossed. They've jumped out. They scared the heck out of you. You swing out to hit them, and then you realize, and then you're mad because that's happened. And then you go, oh, that was just you. And then that all can go away. But you can still feel that adrenaline in your heart area, in your solar plexus, perhaps in your legs that makes you want to run. It's in your arms, that adrenaline. So that's the anger pod that came in and ran you. Swung out, maybe there was a hit, all that stuff. If you process that anger, maybe yelling and saying, don't do that anymore. Oh, it's just you. And then maybe even laugh about it a little bit, have a good belly laugh about it. Now you're moving the emotion. And then the anger can go sit back out in that anger pod again. But when we don't have a way to move the emotion, the anger comes in and it glams onto us. And especially anger will metastasize into our liver and our gallbladder area, and our tendons and our ligaments. Energy and emotions that don't move actually become matter. They crystallize. They make hard spots. They make immobile cells in us. When we use our 5 healing elements, movements, and we get that, we do the breathing of the universe. We reach up into the heavens and we bring the heavens down to us in peace, and we bend our knees and we pump our feet into the earth and we connect that heaven and earth. And when we take our bodies into that rocking motion of contentment and we move the energy, we move it. At the end of the summer, I hadn't engaged in the 5 healing elements for a long time. My body has been visited and being taught by arthritis in my hips. And the Western doctors will only give me hip replacements as solutions to that. In the past, I've received a lot of healing and a lot of mobility through my Qigong practice. And I've been very excited about that because there's been a lot of shifting and a lot of healing. By the end of the summer, though, I was back to double canes. Because, again, I didn't know how to process the grief that I was feeling. And I remember about August thinking, I'm 63 years old. The women in my life and my family live into their 90s. I can't live like this for 30 years. Something's got to change. And then I remembered, I have not done a full 30-minute practice of the 5 healing elements. And the next morning I got up and I stood up and I said to myself, I am going to move through all of these elements at once. And I put on my Master Lin's 5 healing element digital class that I have, and Master Lin guided me through those 5 healing elements. And at the end of that 30 minutes, 60% of my pain was gone. 60% of my pain was gone. And I was able to not work with the cane. That one cane for sure left, and the other cane was very minimally used. And so coming back to the practice and coming back to the fullness of the practice was very, very important and very healing. The next thing that's really helped me is Master Lin himself. I'm engaging right now in the Awakening the Master Within program. And then there, Master Lin shares his grief journey. And I was very grateful, so grateful when he started talking about it. And it was very shortly, he was recording this process very shortly after his dear wife passed away. And again, he couldn't control it. And as he shared his grief journey and the things that he felt, and the processes he went through, was very, very helpful to me. So if you're grieving, connect with someone whose energy you feel is more balanced, and connect with them and share with them and talk with them. Call me, email me. I'd be more than happy to share with you and to do our processes together. One of the things that Master Lin said, though, which was very, very extremely helpful and is right along this line of what we're talking about, is he said, I don't remember exactly how long he was into the process after his wife had transitioned into this next world. And he said, like, he kind of chastised himself sometimes for feeling the depth of the sorrow, because he said, like, I knew where she was and I knew all these things and she'd come to visit me. But he said then he got to a spot, and I don't know if it was 6 or 12 weeks after she had gone to the next realm, where he said, I felt, and I was going to do a recording of it, but Stuart's my tech guy and he's gone. Master Lin said that he felt he was practicing serenity, and he was practicing acceptance, and he was practicing all these things. And he said, I was in this place of serenity, and I'm going to call it nicey nice. He says, but it just felt flat and hard. And then he realized, because he said that's what Buddha would have done, and that's what Jesus, that's what Lao Tzu would have done, was been in that place of serenity. He said, and then I realized that I was copying them. It wasn't that I was feeling that, I was copying what I thought I should feel and should be and should do. And he realized that he had not received anger and hatred and despair and grieving and all of that stuff. And he said, I opened the door and allowed that in, and then I got mad. And I'm paraphrasing him a little bit, but then he received all of the anger and all of the sadness and all of the grief. And he talks about it in his Awakening with Master Within process. And when he was able to receive all of what was, then it moved, and then it cleared. And then he could receive also the serenity, receive the balance. And it wasn't a fake, it wasn't an act any longer. It was truly balanced chi in him. That was very, very, very helpful to me. One of the other things that helped me through the summer before I got to the space of realizing that I hadn't been up and doing the moving meditations. The moving meditations are the yang part of the practice, the action. That's what moves the chi. The yin part of the practice is the small universe meditation. And there would be times when I would sit in the shower and I would run small universe for 2 or 3 cycles. And that was really helpful too. There were also times when I'd be laying on my bed and couldn't move. And I would remember that we take the practice one breath at a time. And I remember once specifically I was laying on my yoga mat on the floor, thinking, I don't know how to get out of this. And I remembered, one breath at a time. In this breath, I choose to feel joy in this breath. And I breathed in joy and smiled. And I breathed out hatred and anger. And then I said, I can do one more breath. And then I let my hands start moving in that. I was still flat on my back, standing, sitting, lying down, visualization. And then I let my hands move. I can breathe in joy again. I can breathe in joy one more time. And I spent half an hour doing that, and then I was able to get up and go and face the next piece. As I'm talking right now, I'm feeling a little bit of tension coming into my head. And so at this moment, and feel into your body what moves through you as I talk about my experience. There may be resonance there that fits your experience. Use these pieces right now, in this moment. Do that breath. Take that finger, put it on your forehead, rotate it. Say, what is this? I am feeling grief. I am feeling sadness. Use these little bits of practice. Master Lin likes to say, Qigong is my life and my life is Qigong. And he says he practices 7 or 8 hours a day. That isn't all time sat in a cave, or he does actually sleep, but it is in these little tiny pieces, these little moments that you put together. The in-breath. Thinking about my Qigong breath this time. As I breathe in this time, I'm going to tuck my tummy in and I'm going to send that air up into my chest and up into my head. And as I relax and breathe out, I'm going to release the breath and let it go out. Putting together those small little bits of practice. If you don't know what they are, when you're following this Qigong, this Qi Talk, if you're new to the practice, take your level 1 course. It's the foundation of all of this. One of the things that Master Lin really said to us through the levels 1, 2, 3, and 4 this summer as I studied them, and thankfully I enrolled in them, and so I have them digitally as well, and I go back to them over and over again and dig down deep into those depths. The one thing that he wanted us trainers to be telling our students and to be inviting our students to do is to feel it. To feel the practice, to feel ourselves, to feel into our bodies, to feel what's going on in there. Dr. Candace Pert is a psychoneuroimmunologist, and she wrote a book called The Molecules of Emotion. And her premise is that the body is the subconscious mind. And so as we become aware of our body and we use our observer skill and just kind of think and see and feel this third person shift and observing into our body and seeing what's going on in there. Don't just brush things off. As I learned to do this, I used to run marathons and ultra marathons. And I told my body to do lots of stuff. And it did. It said, got that, let's go. The longest race I completed was a 100-mile race. And in that 100-mile race, you had to run overnight. And so you were shining a flashlight. You had a flashlight on your forehead and you had one in your hand. And you had to look for little markers. You really had to go by intuition, by your gut feeling. In that space, I made my body, though, do lots of things, and I didn't realize that my body really had an opinion. As I've delved into the Qigong practice, now I'm listening much, much more. And so as I listen to my body, I'd like you just for a moment here to close your eyes and breathe in deeply, in through your nose and out through your nose, and do a body scan. Check into your body, and if my hands were connected, I'm just going to uncross my fingers and uncross my feet. Go into a body scan. Just be aware of what's happening in your body at this moment. Our bodies have all kinds of fun little things going on in them. I started to be aware sometimes when I'd get just a flash of nausea running through my stomach. And in the past, I would have brushed it off and just gone, well, that's weird, and let it go. And now I get that little flash of nausea and I go, nausea in my stomach. That's connected to peace. That's connected to anxiety. I wonder if I'm anxious about something. And as I get curious, feel the emotion, feel the feeling, feel the physical feeling, connect it to the emotion that's connected to the 5 healing elements. Get curious about what that is, then it's like, oh, right, this is coming up shortly. Oh, maybe I am anxious about something about that. Then get curious about what it is that I'm anxious about, what it is that's putting me into an imbalance. Oh, I'm anxious about this aspect. Well, then maybe it sends me back to doing a little bit, if it's a meeting I'm going into, doing a little bit more preparation. Or just, it's that observation and that curiosity. So as we feel into our bodies, and every part of our body is connected emotionally to one of the systems and the organs, and as we start to understand what those are, back to your level 1 class, as we start to understand what those are and what the different systems are, how they're connected to the colors, the smells, the sounds, as we feel those things in our bodies and start going, oh, I'm feeling this piece, this little bit of movement, this little change in this particular muscle. What does that mean? Well, that's connected to this particular system. And get curious and go down. So instead of now going down into that dangerous neighborhood at night, going, oh my goodness, I have this symptom. I've got this going on in my body. Maybe this is this, maybe this is that. And telling ourselves stories, we can get curious. And now we have skills. Because we also, even when that curiosity in the body is leading us in these directions and taking us into the contracting emotions, and I don't like to call them negative emotions, because every emotion that we have has information that's incredibly important for us. So they're not negative emotions. We don't want to get rid of our anger or our hatred or our anxiety or our sadness or depression or our fear. They all protect us in some manner when they sit in our emotion pods, come in, give us information, and then go back to the emotion pod. Where we get trouble is when they come in and we have no way of sending them, of feeling them and receiving the emotion, receiving the information and acting on the information so that they can then go back out to that emotion pod. They get stuck. They disrupt our harmony. They create chi blockages, which disrupts our ease. And so when that kind of thing happens, that's when we start getting disease, anxiety, and different things. My husband, Stuart, now thinking about this from a Qigong perspective, he died of a massive heart attack at Thanksgiving, so about 4 months after he passed away. My daughter Maria came to me and she said, Mommy, why did Daddy die? And she wanted a physiological explanation. I said, well, the doctor's report said that his heart was enlarged. It was too big. It was big because I had to work really hard. And he had severe heart disease. She says, what does that mean? And I had an anatomy coloring book. And so I pulled out a picture of a heart that wasn't colored. And I showed her on the outside of the heart, those arteries that feed the actual heart. And I said, these arteries were all clogged. She said, how did they get clogged? I said, well, his dad had heart disease as well, and he died of that. Sometimes when we eat foods, too many of the wrong foods that have different things in them, that can create blockages as well. I said, and stuck emotions can create blockages like that as well. And she said, like anger? And I said, yes, like anger. She said, Daddy was angry a lot, wasn't he? My husband was military, ex-military, and he had PTSD. And so there was running through his life a undercurrent of anger that he did not understand how to release. And he tried a few different things, but there was this undercurrent of anger and hatred that and severe judgment that he managed, but he never received and never released. And so it went to his heart. And it took him home. Like Master Lin, though, as he received all of his emotions and as I've received my emotions, now he has a connection with his wife. And he says we have conversations all the time. And I have that with Stuart as well. About 5 days after he passed away, I had to move a trailer. I have a farm. We haul horses. I hook up big trailers. I haul them all over the country with horses loaded in them. I had to hook up this trailer, this gooseneck trailer. And my husband, besides one of his skills was that he was a truck driver, and he's a very, very, very good driver. And so I'm hooking up, this is a gooseneck, so this is the ball, and this is the clasp that I have got to back my truck up under this collar so that can drop down onto it. And I'm capable of doing it, but it usually takes a little bit of dancing with the truck. And I'm into the truck and out of the truck and into the truck and out of the truck and into the truck and out of the truck, just adjusting that ball. And it usually takes me about 10 minutes. Well, this time I had to move the trailer because it was about to start raining and I was going to get really, really muddy. I got into the truck and checked things out, looked in my rearview mirror, drove the truck to the back. There's the ball, there's the hitch. Drove the truck right under the hitch, exactly where it needed to go first time. I got out of the truck and I laughed and well, thank you, honey, for driving my truck. I really appreciate that. He guides me now. I have to still do it myself now, but that time he drove the truck. I have felt his presence. They are not far away. They are with us. They are near us. We are connected. We are still connected. I want to share a meditation with you now. I'm going to use Master Lin's music. One of the things Master Lin wanted us to really understand and feel was to feel ourselves and feel the movements and feel differences that our body would invite us into while we practiced. And so this meditation that we're going to go into right now, that I'm going to invite you into, allow your body to take you wherever it needs to take you in this meditation. There's something called Qigong, which means when our body just takes us and feels and moves us in a way that is organic to what the process is that it needs to do for us. Master Lin, in his book, Born a Healer, he talks about his first experience with Qigong in the soccer field, where he said, my body moved in ways I didn't understand. And in that time, he was healed. 80% of his healing in that one experience, that one day. So your body knows, your chi knows it is activated. Allow it to move. I'm going to invite us to stand. And we're going to go into the bounce again. So, bringing ourselves into the bounce. We can also do some tapping if we wish. I personally like bouncing a lot. It brings me into it activates my chi. That, and I'm going to tap the tailbone as I bounce. And tapping the hips. Tapping the hips as we bounce. Bringing the hands, allowing them to float above the head. Observe the speed of your bounce and the depth of your bounce. Listen to your body and allow it to move you as it wishes. Allow your hands to float back down now. And rotating back and forth. As you do this swinging like a little child, rotating back and forth, bring in a feeling or a memory of pure joy. If you don't have a memory, create one. If you could feel pure joy, how would that feel in your body? As we bring in these thoughts and feelings in the moment, continuing to bounce, bringing in that joy. We set up a healing code. Breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth, and come into a quiet stillness. Feel the chi activated in our palms and in our fingertips. Feel our elbows floating away from our body. Feel our posture. Stretching up into the universe. We give the password. I am in the universe. The universe is in my body. The universe and I combine together as one. Call upon our Master's energy, and you set your private intention now. We say something like, dearest Master, dearest guide, dearest spirit. Whatever term fits for you, with deepest gratitude for the wisdom that comes to me, for the skills that I'm acquiring. I set the intention for this practice today. And you set your intention now. Bringing our hands to the lower dantian and feeling a ball here. This is the ball of yin and yang. Feel your palms pulsing, your fingertips pulsing and tingling. this beautiful energy ball. This balanced ball of yin and yang. Invite yourself into this ball. If you are grieving, if you have a space that is deeply sad, that is full of grief, invite yourself into this ball. See yourself in this energy ball right now. And feel your master with you. Just like we're guiding when we teach a child to write, we put our hands over the child's hands and we help them. Feel your master's hands over your hands. Feel yourself in your master's body, your master's body in you, and you are one. And feel this master. Feel the master feeling your grief. Feel your master weeping with you. Feel your master receiving everything that you are feeling. Feel their knowing. Feel their love. Feel your own heart connected with the master's heart. And feel yourself and your master saying to your grieving self, I am here for you. I feel you. I know what you're feeling. I know the depths of the sorrow and the pain and the anger and the resentment and perhaps the bitterness. I know all of those things. Take this energy ball now and bring it into our bodies. And feel it inside. Feel into your body. Feel into any places that you have sensations of any sort. And as you feel into those sensations and breathe into the sensation, you may have a color come to you in that sensation space. Breathe into the color. And feel the colors. I'm going to include the colors of the rainbows. Feel all the colors of the rainbow coming into your body and into all those spaces that have sensations of any sort. It could be pain, it could simply be awareness. The rainbow comes in at the top of your head. And you can feel, and if your body needs to move, allow it to move. Be aware. Feel all the colors of the rainbow coming through the top of your head. And as it encounters contracting emotions, it kisses them and says, thank you for coming. Thank you for the information that you shared. You can become mist now. Return back to the universe. This rainbow comes down through our heads, in through our eyes, through our ears, through the bones, through the brain, down through the throat, down into the shoulders, into the chest, into the heart, into the lungs. All the colors of the rainbow fill our whole being and out the fingers, and out into the universe. Releasing anything that's caught, any extra energy that is no longer ours. We feel our master with a beautiful paintbrush washing us with this beautiful rainbow color down through the torso, out through the skin. As we breathe in the colors of the rainbow. And as we breathe out, we see that mist after a rain that rises off the earth. And that beautiful rainbow that tells us that there is a pot of gold at the bottom of the rainbow. And that pot of gold is healing and light and love. And we feel it down through our hips and down through our legs and through our knees and through our shins and the heels and the bubbling spring and down into the earth. We feel this beautiful rainbow with all of its mist and its joy and its happiness, and it's rebuilding. It's creating new life. The mist that's coming in. We feel the growth, the springing up of flowers. We smell the breezes. And we receive sounds. You might hear a sound, you might say a sound. And say the sounds of she, she, or cur, cur, or who, or see, see, or tree, tree. As we feel all these healing sounds and see the colors, and use our breath to bring in happiness, and joy, and peace, and contentment, and deep, deep gratitude. We feel the rainbow healing us, taking us now to the top of the wave where the sun is shining, the birds are singing. And we have more strength for the next time. We go down into the deeper wave and we know how to receive all of what is there. We honor it all. We honor all of who we are and what we feel. Bringing our hands to our heart. Bring our hands together. Massaging our face. Say to yourself, I love you, and use your own name. Tapping the top of our head. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Tapping between our eyebrows. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Tapping under our eyes. Tapping down our body. Tapping under our left armpit. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And tapping under our right armpit. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And closing and connecting our fingers and massaging our tummy. Our whole organ system. Saying thank you, thank you, thank you for all of the balances that you give each other. I'm going to tap into our kidney energy. Using our open fist, we're tapping our kidneys. Dropping our hands down. And tapping our tailbone. And out into the hips. And down to the knees. 6, 7, 8, 9, into the backs of the knees. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And the left knee. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And the right knee. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Come back to your seat. I invite you to go to your journal now. Even though our time together is almost ended, I invite you to go to your journal. And don't just walk away from this class at this moment. Sit with yourself for a little bit longer. Breathe into your lower dantian. Feel what you've received. Give yourself some space and some time. Go into your cave. Record information that is just for you. This is how the Master speaks to us. This is how our healing happens. This is how we know that we are known and we are loved by an infinite universe from which we do not have to deserve, simply because we are. Simply because we are magnificent. Namaste. I love you.